But then you watch a game like tonight and LeBron kicked his ass. He's not ready to be a top 15 guy, but he really, really, really gives a shit about every game. It's great. I love it. This is a long, sustained offensive excellence that when you watch it feels legitimate. We're not going to be nice. What do we care? We're just these, let's call it what it is. We are live. It is Sunday night. A lot of people don't know this, but when we do the BS podcast, Guess the Lines with Cousin Sal, live on YouTube, we get overtime games. Sal, who did you have? Just so I know what kind of mood you're in.
I had the Rams plus the points, but I had them bigger on a teaser. But I just feel bad for the better team when they don't cover the spread, even though they don't care.
The better team. Yeah. We're doing that after week one?
Well, they were the better team tonight. You had the Lions? That was the wrong side, wasn't it?
Well, it was 17-3. They're about to put the game away. And then all of a sudden, Rams score. The Lions go punt. They go pick. They go punt. And the Rams just have all the momentum. And then somehow the Lions can get it back. I'm going to start here because we both had a lot of money on the Lions futures. Yeah. I have them to win the Super Bowl. I have them for the 1 seed. I have them to win the NFC North. And all of that was tied into what happened last year with, Goff answered a lot of questions. He was in some big spots. Dan Campbell, those guys, they've gotten the reps. And yet when we were here on a Sunday night and they were down, I didn't have a lot of faith in Goff. I think that's a me problem, not a Goff problem. But I just didn't totally trust them. And even when they had to settle for the field goal, I just wasn't, it wasn't like it is with some other quarterbacks like Mahomes, even Lamar on Thursday night. And I think I have to get over that hump mentally with Goff. Did that make sense?
You don't believe in Goff? You're agnostic? What would that make you if you don't believe in Goff?
I do believe in Goff. I bet.
You believe in Goff?
I'd like to think I'm Goff friendly, but there's that little stuff that happens with him in these tight games where I don't have the same faith in him that I have in some of the, maybe top 7, 8 guys.
It's going to be very hard to not overreact to all. How many games have we seen? 15, right? So yes. I'll and this will last for about 3 minutes, but I'm going to try to keep everything in perspective. Is it possible the Rams, who I was joking in the beginning, they're not the better team. They're probably not a top 6 team. Is it possible they just play great against the Lions? And is it possible they're just like the Pernell Whitaker of football teams where they're going to make you look terrible no matter who you are, better or worse,
Did you go old school boxing with me?
I did.
We've only been live on YouTube for like 3 minutes.
A little lefty. Why are we live, by the way? This is what's your worst idea? Because this is worse than that.
You were live this morning on our Ringer Sunday pregame. You did fine.
I know, but people are just waking up. They don't care. I had to miss the afternoon games, so I got Botox because I don't like the way I look on YouTube. But all right, let's keep it going. We're live.
Listen, this was a lot more dangerous 20 years ago. We were on a text chain this weekend. We were talking about the first 6 months of our cousin Jimmy's show, which he was doing live. And he made the mistake of having you do staff updates live at 9:06 at night Pacific time or whatever it was. And you would come on and just air out different things that were going on with the staff. And people were absolutely terrified. And this thing went badly and HR had to get involved a couple of times.
You're right. It cost a few relationships and jobs and stuff like that. And here we are. Didn't learn
20 years later, you're older, you're wiser, you've had some kids. With Lions-Rams, I felt the same way about that game as I did about Chiefs-Ravens, where it's like, these are 2 playoff teams.
Yeah.
Either team can beat either team in different types of situations. I don't think anyone's dramatically better than the other. I guess with the Rams, the big question was, what are they going to look like without Aaron Donald? And they look pretty good. They got overpowered at the end. But I think Collinsworth's right. When you're talking about week 1, week 2, week 3, when these teams aren't really in shape yet, you're going into overtime. These guys, nobody even plays the preseason anymore. So it's hard to say, they got overpowered in the end, Sal.
I didn't even watch the game. I just love being in Detroit with Mike, eating a Coney dog with watching the Ford assembly line. How they make those catalytic converters. It's astounding to me. It really is.
There's a bridge that goes right to Canada from here, Mike. You just go right over it and you're right in Canada. Listen, Collinsworth was one of the big winners today because, Tom Brady did the Browns-Cowboys game, and I love Tom Brady. He brought me 6 Super Bowls. Let's just say he was a little raw.
Yeah.
to say the least. So when we got to Collinsworth a couple hours later, Collinsworth seemed like he was Bradley Cooper and Limitless compared to Brady. Like he was fucking spotting everything. He had jokes ready. Brady, I was just hoping he could get through sentences. It was a rough debut to say the least.
I'm with you. I like Brady and I want him to succeed. And I feel like he can easily succeed. Now there's a chance he's better as a studio guy, but yeah, man, there was some lulls that he was supposed to fill and he didn't. And when he
long
did,
stretches of silence where it was like he was waiting for a replay or something.
And not even for drama. It was like, while the ref sorted stuff out, and I don't know, it was just strange. But he'll be better, I think.
Well, I wondered, he felt over prepared to me, like he was trying to list, now I'm going to go through all the offensive linemen on the Browns, and it almost reminded me of the excuses after Biden's debate where they're like, he was over prepared, he had too much information. It's like, no, there was actually probably some other problems too. In Brady's case, I think he was trying to do so many things and he was so over prepared, he forgot the part that it's like, we're supposed to be hanging out watching a football game with Tom Brady. Like, point some stuff out. Deshaun, the thing I care most about from Brady is the quarterback's perspective. Deshaun was in an absolute nightmare in that game. And it's like, walk us through what you're seeing. What's wrong with Deshaun? Why is he not the same guy he was 4 years ago? What's actually happening here? And I thought he would have been useful, but he wasn't.
I think he was just happy, like, all right, let everyone focus on Deshaun's massive contract, 300+ million, and not mine. And I won't bring it up. That kind of thing.
Anything else we need to say about that Sunday night game with Rams-Lions? Like, there wasn't a lot of St. Brown. There wasn't a lot of Laporta. The Jameson Williams, who I think was in some fantasy auctions, people were excited about him. He had some big plays. On the flip side, Nakua, who came into the season hurt, got hurt again, disappeared. And I think people were afraid of that. But on the flip side of that, Kupp was incredible. And Kupp hit the point where it's like, can you just triple team him? Just let anybody else on the rant in the fourth quarter. Can you just put 2 guys on him? Because Stafford's going there every time. So Kupp looks like he's back. The Rams, from what we saw from Friday night and then today, the Rams are a playoff team. There's not 6 better NFC teams than them, I don't think.
Oh, no. And you look at the quarterback play, and I think you guys, or Hench was getting mad on our text chain about the defense. I was like, well, the Rams had 20 going into overtime. They ended up with 20. It's like, that was their expected point total, actually a shade less. So if you want to get on the Lions defense, that's fine. But sometimes the quarterbacks just make the throws. And Stafford had some third down conversions that were spectacular, And so, they're going to be gamers. They should get to 10 wins.
I forget. Maybe it was Sheil Kapadia. One of the Ringer guys threw out Stafford for MVP. It was like 30-1.
Wow.
As like, now they lost today, so that's not helping the MVP case. But it is, when you watch him play a game like that, you're like, this is clearly one of the best 10 or 12 guys in the league. But he took a lot of hits. We'll see how he lasts. All right. So we have some stuff planned for this. It's week 1, which means we have to do the panic rankings. And I think they're not even the panic rankings. They're the absolute sheer sphincter tightening panic rankings. And I have Atlanta number 1. Is there a team? I didn't want to do a draft. Is there a team you would put over Atlanta? And can we get into Atlanta right now?
We can get into Atlanta, but I only think because of where they are, it's not panic time. Now, I know the Saints look really good and the Bucs look really good, and one of those teams may actually be good, but I don't want to panic just yet. But if I had a mulligan, are we going to do a mulligan separately, or
let's do that separately? So you would have somebody over Atlanta for panics?
Yeah, I would have the Browns.
Okay, let's start with the Browns then, because I had them 1A, 1B. So the Browns, we argued about this when we did the AFC over-unders. You were over on the Browns. I was under. And I really only had Deshaun Watson as my reason. I was like, I'm completely out. I don't see it. I don't think he's salvageable. There's no evidence that the guy from the last Houston season is coming back. He was way worse than whatever I said on that podcast. He was a disaster. And the fans were booing. You must have been absolutely delighted. I mean, that was like the dream Dallas day for you. We could talk about them later, but I just don't know what their moves are with Deshaun. His body language is awful. His footwork's terrible. There was a couple plays today where they had perfect protection for him in the pocket, and he would just scramble out anyway, Zach Wilson style, and just kind of create a dangerous situation for himself. There was one play in the second half, like 3 Browns linemen were all like, why are you going that way? We all blocked our guys. Like,
right.
Why'd you go this way? He doesn't seem salvageable to me, Sal.
I think you're right. And now when I picked the Browns over, I mentioned Jameis Winston a lot. And I mentioned the fact that they had 5 quarterbacks and they could do it with 5 quarterbacks again this year if they could find their Flacco and maybe he's out there. And I don't know if it's the YouTube thing, why we're getting so political, but this is a second Joe Biden reference. Is it possible the Browns, this is a Biden thing where they knew he was bad, but they're fully invested, and today was a debate and he crapped himself, and now they have to make a decision this very week.
So they threw him out for the debate, basically. And let's just say it didn't go well. I looked at some of the numbers. Do you know what his dead cap hit is next year?
Is it 90? Something
like that?
172
million. That would if they waive him, because all the money and all the extra bonuses would all get thrown into 1 year.
That's bad.
So they kind of have to stick this out for 2-3 more weeks, but worst case scenario, you're just doing what Denver did with Russell Wilson and you're eating it, because their teams, I don't think it's a bad team. I think they have above average talent. Chubb's coming back in week 5, and he killed them today, and that's it. That's what happened in that game.
Well, let's do flip side now, right? Maybe we're overreacting. Although I do think it's number 1 in the panic. Maybe they ran into a buzzsaw that would just crush anyone today. The Cowboys, who stopped playing offense basically in the second quarter and still won 33-17. And by the way, I was all set to apologize for leaving Guess the Lines last week with our audience thinking Dallas was favored by 2.5. when it was really the Browns. Which is a cancelable offense. I should be bagging.
That was one of our biggest Guess the Line mistakes we've ever had, I think.
Really bad. Really bad. You got to get like a nephew to produce this and jump on us when something like that happens. I don't know. But FanDuel should end up apologizing for not making the Cowboys a 2.5 point favorite. That was complete domination. So maybe this is an outlier.
You look good. And I mean, we'll keep going with the panic rankings, but I mean, to start the day with the Dak contract. Just been. So was this all for show? Is this a little showmanship from our guy Jerry? Like, oh, we just, you know what? On September 7th, we just decided, hey, maybe we're closer with these numbers than we thought. Did they know this was going to happen 6 weeks ago? Is that why Dak didn't really say anything? And is this Jerry's way of being like, I'm going to own week 1. We're going to beat the Browns. I have my signed quarterback, and everyone's going to be talking Cowboys on Monday.
Yeah, I think, it was different like with a CD Lamb who wasn't showing up, but I think, and Romo confirmed this when I talked to him last week, he's like, there's a little deviance to this whole thing. But Jerry kind of knows what he's doing. He's saving money in the meantime, and these guys could get hurt during the week. Russell Wilson had the starting job and got hurt during the week.
Right.
So the later you let these guys go without playing meaningful downs, the better. So yeah, he's a genius, except for having not won a Super Bowl in 30 years.
Well, you had, I always compared Dak to Cousins. I think this was the day Dak kind of ascended over Cousins, because Cousins was so bad. Cousins might be moving to a different point of his career. Dak got paid. Dak is now the highest praised QB in the league. This isn't on FanDuel yet. I don't know why, but I think it's going up tomorrow. I have a worst trade ever line with Deshaun Watson versus Bryce Young. There's been some movement.
Oh, wow.
Deshaun is now minus 140 as the worst NFL trade ever over the Bryce Young trade. I don't know if you saw Bryce Young 13 for 30 with 2 picks and just a completely devastating loss to a New Orleans team that might not even be good. But I think the Deshaun trade is still worse.
So did that go up today?
I'll ask them to put it up, even though it's hypothetical. Did the odds there's no way to bet on it. Yeah, the odds went up today because Deshaun had it before. Bad.
Yeah. Okay, I see. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know. You can't go making Derek Carr looking good like that. That Derek Carr Dennis Smith combination. That's really a Dennis Allen combination. Yeah. Can't.
Well, I guess the good thing for them was Caleb, at least, they didn't play that great. All right, so panic rankings. Cleveland 1A and Atlanta 1B. You
Yeah.
seem a little more willing to work with the Falcons and make excuses for them than I am. I thought House and I were, this was one of our favorite picks, the Pittsburgh defense, just to win this game. So we actually hit it. But the big thing was like, do we have any evidence that Cousins, who was a 500 quarterback for the last few years of his career, who then has an Achilles injury, who's, hitting the last part of his mid-30s, who hasn't played for 10 months, what was he going to look like against a pretty frenetic, rabid defense? And the answer was horrific.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, but the Steelers also might be one of those teams that make you look bad. I mean, the Steelers-Falcons, that game's going to be 12-10 in the fourth quarter. That's the kind of games they play all the time against other teams. So, of course, they play each other like that. Yeah, Cousins definitely needed to be better. But let's remember, we did say that Atlanta maybe jump on them to win the division if they're 0-3 or 1-2. Yeah, so we're kind of getting it how we want it. But out of the skill, like Drake London did nothing. A lot of these guys just didn't show up, and maybe it is Cousins' fault, but they should be able to
shut down Bijan. Yeah, we talked about this scenario about how dumb it was to bet Atlanta before the season. Now they were favored in the Pittsburgh game. They're playing at Philly next week, and then they're home for KC in week 3. And that's a legitimate 0-3 potential. I'm sure they weren't expecting Penix to be a conversation heading into week 2. Now, it was interesting in we were in a couple of fantasy auctions together, and Penix got drafted in both of them. One was a keeper league, which made more sense, but the other one, he also got I have him in 3 leagues. He got drafted in 2 of the 3. And the Cousins thing, maybe it ends up like Cousins just doesn't have it in the same way. I know it's way too early to tell, but at least like they could say, see, this is why you can't have enough quarterbacks. This is why we took the number 8. Like, they could do that. But he was
right. I wonder if the GM is high-fiving someone because he did.
He's like, see, I told you.
Pick.
Right. I told you we need this.
What do we make of Arthur Smith? Did he matter? He didn't matter for the Steelers leaving, but he didn't help. I don't know. He definitely wasn't good with Atlanta, but he didn't really help the Steelers. So,
well, if you were going to pick any
lose,
if you're going to pick any team this week, like some team this week will win 18-10, and all of their points will be on field goals. Who'd be like, that's Pittsburgh. There's no question. Yeah. Right. Cousins had 2 picks, but I watched that game pretty closely. There was 2 other plays when Watt was unbelievable today, but he actually should have had 2 more turnovers. There was they called offsides on Watt where it was really dicey, and he was absolutely furious. He was yelling at the refs for a while, and then they had another one where there was a fumble they recovered, but they called some like kind of dubious hands to the face on a D-back. But so somehow it was actually worse if you watch the game, the Cousins performance than the stats.
Yeah. It's they call it the Kirk Cousins game when you should have 5, but you end up with 2.
Does Pittsburgh have the best defense in the league, or am I nuts? That was the best defense I saw today.
Healthy, right? When those guys are healthy, you could get used to the other team not passing midfield a lot, for sure.
I thought Watt was out of control. The guys that jumped out of the TV, Watt, your guy, Parsons, Myles Garrett a little bit, but then once Dallas had a big lead, it was harder for him to do it. But those were
also the quarterbacks in general, and I don't know why I'm surprised by this. Just not, you don't see. I think there were 4 guys who threw for over 200 yards or something today. Yeah, it really wasn't that much. And some got there by accident. So,
well, I do wonder with the lack of a preseason. Are we just going to get sloppy? The Jacksonville Miami game, I thought in particular, which we'll talk about. We'll take a quick break for the podcast. We're going to stay here on YouTube and come back and finish the panic rankings. All right, coming back. So my number 3 panic team, Cincinnati. They were awful. And Kyle, I watched the game with nephew Kyle, and I was just out on this Pat season. I didn't see a path for them to have even 4 wins. Kyle is a glass half full, optimistic guy. Came in wearing a defensive jersey because he's like, we're gonna have to do it with defense this year. They played a really good game, and the Bengals, I think, were even worse than the good game the Pats played. And it was just this perfect storm of events. The Pats win 16-10. They did everything right. They didn't turn the ball over. their offensive line, they were running on the right side. Their right side was actually like blocking for Ramondre. Ramondre was great. He was breaking tackles. And then defensively, Keon Wade had 2.5 sacks, like stepped right into Judon. They were getting pushed from their front line. Their safeties were flying around. They were tackling. They were really playing for each other. They just played really well. They only scored 16, but
Yeah.
they were good. And Cincy was awful. And
Yeah.
I don't know what this means long-term for Cincy, but Burrow does not seem like he wants to throw the ball deep.
That was, first of all, you should apologize to me for what I thought about your team, what would happen, and about my team. And the other teams, I was probably wrong about the other 30 or whatever. But I told you +7.5. I told you that was the way to go.
By the way,
Bengals always crap. Oh, look at Rowdy Roddy. Look at that.
Rowdy for our first live YouTube.
We're all out of
you were right.
gum.
The Bengals always crap.
I didn't think they were going to score 10, but maybe Zach Taylor should sit out week 1. I mean, maybe isn't he a better like week 4 through 15 coach? That guy is never ready to start the season. Plus, Jamar Chase is like, yeah, all right, I'll go. It's like a spouse. You know, he decided to play at the last minute.
Yeah, he was
it's like if you go to a
played.
party with your wife, or your wife goes with you and she doesn't want to go. You could tell, like, oh, that person doesn't want to be there. And Burrow had to deal with this, and they couldn't get more than 10. It's disgusting.
We called it in the Ringer pregame show.
Yeah,
this was the fishy game. I unfortunately had money on it from 10, 14 days ago, but there was going to be no more on this. It was the clear eliminator pick. It was the clear throw them in every parlay tease. So the moment
you asked me what the fishy tease, what the sexy teaser was, Seattle, Cincinnati, and they almost both lost.
And Seattle was trailing at one point. Are the Pats sneaky good, or are the Bengals sneaky bad? If you had to pick one,
I think they're both 4th place teams, and I think the Patriots are gonna pull off a few more upsets. I don't know if they'll win more games, but you're going to be like, oh, wow, they had it in them. Look at that.
Yeah,
sneaky good. Brissett's fine. I told you, there's no 200-yard passers.
Didn't
Brissett's
throw the ball more than like 7-8 yards.
It's okay. Didn't turn it over.
I do feel like when teams watch the game tape, they're going to be going, oh, they only run the ball right and then just throw quick 5-yard passes. We could probably figure out how to stop this. But I mean, you can't ask for much more from a new coach game. The last preseason game was so bad. The offensive line stuff all through training camp was so bad. I was really prepared for the worst. And they caught this.
It was a good game plan.
Yeah,
and they deserve the Gatorade. It's your Super Bowl. They deserve the Gatorade.
You win your first game. I'm not against it. Burrow had 0 TDs. They had 1 20+ yard catch in the game, the Bengals. And Christian Gonzalez was on him a lot and did a pretty good job on him, but it was a nice win for the Pats. So there, as the winless team, we talked about, I thought it was going to be the Pats versus whoever lost this Minnesota Giants game.
Yeah.
And then the Giants, who I don't think they aren't good enough to be in the panic rankings.
You already lost $50,000 in our future stake.
I know. I'm down 50 grand. I know.
That's a lot. That's a lot to some people.
Well, here's the thing with the Bengals, though. Because we think the AFC is going to be good, and it might even be 7 seed, might be 10 wins. That's kind of on the schedule. You have to win the Pats game at home, right? You have the extra home game. You got 9 home, 8 away, and it's like you have to start out 1-0. So now, they got to go 10-6 the rest of the way. I didn't like what I saw from them, and it didn't seem like they could run the ball as well as they did the last couple of years. Didn't seem like their line was that great. I thought the defensive pressure, it wasn't like they were in Brissett's face. I was not impressed. Okay, next one. I mean, this happened Friday night, but would you put Green Bay in the top 5 for the panic rankings?
Yeah, I just don't know what you do. I mean, I'm looking at can they survive the next 4 weeks with let's say it's 4 weeks. They have Richardson at Levis, whatever, Darnold and at Stafford. But if your answer is Malik Willis, who wasn't even holding the ball right in the picture that the team posted when he was traded to the team, he didn't have one finger on a lace, which is very, very difficult.
You think that's a problem?
It was a problem when we saw it. And he's like, screw this. I'm not throwing this Hail Mary. This could be embarrassing.
It's like if we gave the football to Jeff Ross, and Jeff Ross was like, hey, it's a football. And they have no idea what to do with it.
He would roast it and toss it aside. Yeah, he would have no idea. So what do you do? Is Tannehill going to help them win games? I guess it's better. Bailey Zappi? What's the panic?
could you get one of those Browns guys? Don't the Browns have 4 quarterbacks? All of them, all the other guys are better than what Green. Like you can't start Malik Willis. Like if I'm the Packers, I can't start out 0-5 or 1-4. Like you have to at least get to 2-3 before Love gets back.
It's true.
You might be able to get 9 wins for the 7 seed, but you just have to make sure you don't like tank the entire month of September, which they would with Malik Willis. It's not a professional.
The problem is the Browns need Jameis. Like, they need him themselves, right?
Right. Well, yeah, but don't they still have Dorian Thompson-Robinson?
Yeah, they have DTR. Yeah.
You know, they showed the graphic of the 38 Browns starting quarterbacks since 1999, and it filled the whole screen. It was 38 names.
Really? That's sweet.
And I saw Deshaun Kaiser, and I think that was my favorite Sal nickname, Kaiser Sose. When we were betting against Kaiser Sose every week, I really missed that guy.
We got rich off that guy. That was nice.
Yeah, he was great. So you would have Green Bay higher than 4, or would you put him 4?
No, I guess 4 is about right. I just don't know what the I guess you just have to sit there and panic. I don't know what the solution is.
Because their weapons look good in that game.
Yeah.
You know, like defensively, you're in Brazil. The turf was crazy. The Eagles played really well. I think the Eagles answered some questions we had about, you know, is Kellen Moore going to be different for them? Is Barkley going to be different for them? Are they going to look different? Are they going to have a different kind of mojo? Like when you consider they had 2 awful turnovers, right? And then they get stuffed near the goal line. And I mean, it's just the fact that they won pretty easily anyway by 5 with all the things that went wrong for them. Thought it was impressive. Barkley looked great for them too.
He looked really good. I hate that that's going to work out for them. The only thing was the tush push by the goal line didn't
that one didn't work.
Didn't really matter. But it could lead us to your number 5. I mean, I can't imagine this one could be any lower than 5 for the panic. Who do you have?
I mean, it has to be Carolina, right?
I thought we mentioned Carolina.
No, I just think like there was some Carolina buzz, and it's like I picked them in our picks bowl. I would never have bet on them. Raheem in our wise wager today. You guys went around, and Raheem's wise pick was Carolina. It's like, this is ambitious. They were 2-15 last year. I kind of want to see them play a game.
Sometimes it's wise to tank the first wise wager and make people think you're laying down.
It's true. Maybe that's what he did. But so I had Steven Ruiz from The Ringer on a couple weeks ago, who's also a Panthers fan. And I asked him for 5 hottest takes. And one of his takes was that Bryce Young was going to get benched during the season. And I was like, whoa, that's a great one. Like, I'm jealous of how good that take is. And from what we saw today, we are right on path for the Bryce Young.
I don't know what that team's supposed to do, but you know, let just people beware, and you know, maybe they won't turn out 2-15, but maybe they will, and they'll actually be able to cash in on their number 1 pick this year, where they weren't last year. But you don't have to bet a team over 6.5 that won 2 games the year before. You just don't have to do it because they got a little more exciting. I thought Bryce Young had way more than 2 interceptions. I'm looking at this now, 13 for 30, only at 2.
He started each half with an interception.
That's right.
Which I don't know if I don't know if he's going to do that all season. He might have announced that privately to his teammates.
Well, he got better. The first play of the first half was an interception. The second play of the second half was an interception. And if it had gone to overtime, maybe it could have waited to the third play. So it was improvement. Yeah.
I'm very proud to announce that I did not watch a single play of that game.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I just decided that we would concentrate on 6 of the 8 games. There's 8 games in the early slate. I didn't want to do red zone where you're constantly we're trying to watch 6 TVs at once. And I punted on that one, and I punted on Minnesota Giants because I was just like, one of those 2 teams is going to be horrible, and I'll just find out after which one was horrible. And it turned out it was the Giants.
But you did a nice job. You put the 4 games. They were all good games, right?
They were
4 box.
Tennessee, Chicago. I wouldn't say we'll be telling our grandkids about it, but it was entertaining.
Well, I might be. I'm like, hey, you know why you live in a $30,000 house? Because Grandpa Sal bet the freaking Titans plus 4.5, and somehow they blew it. Otherwise, things would have been better.
You had
goddamn.
I mean, what was there? There was a punt block. There was a kick return, and then Levis just falling down, just flinging it to somebody for the pick 6, and they get the 2-point. It was 17-16 Titans. They're plus 5.5, and now all of a sudden they're not even covering.
I have a stat here. They led the game 17-0 and lost 24-17, failing to cover the spread. Dogs have 4 more to lead by 17 at any point, or we're 66-1 against the spread in the last 5 years.
How many of those teams had
that
Will
shovel
Levis?
pass, hopefully not even this one next week. Like that's not a panic team for sure, but what was he thinking with that shovel pass? That was disgusting. It had to pass 3 Bears before it got to his receiver.
He was 19 for 32 for 127 yards. It's like basically 4.1 a pass. He had a pick 6. The Bears got 11 first downs and they somehow won. And
2.8 yards per play.
The Bears. They won the game. You know, for the smart people in Tennessee who thought they could improve on Mike Vrabel, they had 2 huge special teams mistakes and their quarterback did some dumb shit. Who did you have for number 5 in the panic rankings if it wasn't Carolina?
Well, the Giants are miserable. I mean, I think they're. But
can the Giants even panic about? Like, if you're a Giants fan, are you like, oh my god, I can't believe we're this bad? Like, this is coming down the highway at 10 miles an hour.
I think it's more. Yeah, I guess it's Joe Shane and Mike Dable. I think,
but all these guys are Brian Dable. All these guys are going to get.
Why can't I get anyone's name right?
Because you've been doing TV and live pods for 15 hours.
Bill Mike Dable, his brother, he's in trouble. Bill, I'm telling you.
I think what
Shane after the Barkley thing and that McKinney had an interception the other day and Danny Dimes is getting screamed at in those terrible uniforms, which looked like they lost a fantasy bet and had to wear there was a lot wrong with the Giants today. They were the most embarrassing, I think.
Yeah, they're one of those teams that I'm not sure being home means they have a home field advantage.
Yeah.
That clip that went around all week about the GM explaining, well, then Barkley goes, it goes, and the mayor is in there, and he's like, I'm just gonna tell you, I'm gonna be really upset if he leaves and goes to wherever like that. Like if this doesn't work out, I'm gonna hold. It was like The Godfather. I'm gonna hold some of the people in this room accountable.
That guy should panic. That's what I'm saying.
Listen, everyone's getting fired of the Giants, and we're on Belichick watch, which he's on 5 different shows and podcasts and whatever. Like, I hope all of these people have contingency plans for Belichick, like taking the Giants job in week 7.
Especially when the Patriots are 6-0 and he's going to be like, enough of this. I got to get back in the game.
I have one more for the sheer panic rankings week 1. Marvin Harrison fantasy owners. 1 catch for 4 yards. He was going for like 32, 33 bucks at these auctions. There was just massive bidding wars. He was being treated like he was like one of the 9 or 10 best receivers in the league. He not only did he only have 1 catch, he actually dropped a really important catch in the second half because he wasn't even really involved in the game, but he had a big play over the middle and dropped it and just looked like totally rookie. Meanwhile, Thomas on Jacksonville was awesome. Like, not only did he have a touchdown,
but he
caused a big pass interference. He got like a 50-yard pass interference too, which of course doesn't count for fantasy. But I thought he looked like the best rookie receiver today. I didn't see the neighbors game, so I don't know how good.
Best rookie overall, I think. Well, I'm not going to go defensively, but yeah. I mean,
Jared Verse was wide open. Rams.
He was good. He had that big sack at the end of the half. But Harrison was wide open the last drive, and that gives you the little insight. Is like Kyler Murray was just done with him by then. Like, I'm not even looking at that. You're out of my purview right now. But I think we overrated the rookies, at least for week 1. If you look at it, Stroud didn't have like a good week 1 either last year.
Right,
like 220 yards, interception. So,
we
should remember that.
It was in pencil and I erased it, but Chicago was in the sheer panic rankings, and then they ended up actually winning. It was not an awesome game for them.
I think if they had punted to Caleb Williams up 17-0 every time they had the ball, I don't think that guy it was going to take him 20 drives.
He was terrible. He was terrible. 14 for 29, 93 yards. Some of those, can we just call them the Zach Wilsons now when the guy panics and rolls to his right and just flings it?
I like it.
1 out of every 7 throws was pretty nice, but he missed dudes. Like he had Keenan Allen wide open going down on a touchdown, missed them. And they had 11 first downs and they somehow got the win. Let's take one more break for the podcast and then we'll hit the rest of the games through guest lines.
All right.
All right. Coming back on YouTube. So some other stuff, the nobody believes in us rankings. I have
Mhm.
I have our week 1 top 4. Pittsburgh has to be number 1, right? They carried themselves that whole game. Like, I can't believe you guys thought we were a 4th place team. They're the first
Yeah.
place team in the AFC North right now.
They're a little like Dr. House, right? Oh, who's
Joe
or
House?
Quincy? No, not Joe House. I'm gonna get this first name right. No, but like they're the I told you so team. Like,
Yeah.
why don't you believe us after all these years? We're gonna knuckleball our way to make this close, and we're gonna beat you with 6 field goals. Doesn't happen every game. And by the way, why didn't you remind me, Simmons? Steelers lose first half. Steelers win the game.
Did
Eight
that
to
hit
one
again?
odds. It freaking
No.
hit. And
Come
we
on.
just had
Where
we had
were
so much
you?
shit going on. I forgot
You're
all about
literally
it.
on a 90-minute
I
pregame
know.
gambling show.
No, it needs to be 3 hours.
Oh my God. They should name
Yeah.
that thing after you.
Yeah.
Falcons had 10 points. They had their longest pass was 20 yards. They only had 226 yards total offense. So the D was awesome for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But the bonus was Fields was pretty good. He fumbled the first snap of the game. No more turnovers or any weird stuff from him. He hit Pickens on a couple long ones. He had a couple big scrambles, and he was like, he's not the reason they won, but he didn't lose the game for them. And I got to say, he made a couple plays. He's a little more unpredictable than Russell Wilson. I thought he was okay.
Is someone whispering to him like, yeah, you go 17 for 23, $150, a little more. Don't throw any touchdowns, but please don't throw any interceptions. And we're going to win 9 or 10 games. Just do that for us. I think that's where he is.
Yeah, just take off when you're under pressure. Just keep the ball on the sidelines. Don't throw into traffic. But I actually liked how he played. So that's number 1. Number 2, I think, would be New England, who we covered. For nobody believes in us. I think the Chargers are 3.
Yeah.
You had the Raiders in that one. It was a weird game.
Did.
There were some Raiders injuries on the defensive line during the game. It looked like the Chargers couldn't do anything. And then as the game went along, they started running the ball. Dobbins, who looks like he's running like a 5.2 40, but broke away a couple times. Tate Frazier was there, our friend. Apparently a Chargers season ticket. He's apparently a Chargers season ticket holder. He said it was 70% Raiders fans. It did not matter. Chargers ran 27 times for 176 yards, and they end up winning. But that's not what I want to talk about. Although there are some nobody believes in us energy because their over under is 8.5. Not a lot of people. Antonio Pierce, Raiders non-interim coach.
No one believes in him.
They're down 6. There's like 6 minutes left in the game, and they're on the Chargers 40. And it was like 4th and 5, 4th and 3. I can't remember.
No. 1.
It was 4th and 1?
Yeah. 4th and 1 from the 43. They
punted.
Yeah.
And it will be the worst punt we see all year. Nobody will beat that. It was an absolute disgrace. I can't believe this guy who's like, Raiders way, right? Bringing the toughness back. And he's like, I'm going to fucking punt with 6 minutes left. Unbelievable. Couldn't believe it.
They did it last year too. There's an account on Twitter, a surrender index or something. I'm not going to do it justice, but
yeah, the surrender thing.
Right. And in this situation, it had a surrender index of 131.72. This punt ranks as the 100th percentile of cowardly punts of the 2024 season and the 99th percentile of all punts since 1999. Where do you like your surrender index to be with your head coach? In the 115s, 120s? Like 131.72.
100% is pretty so tough to beat. Basically you can't do worse than that punt.
No, I guess
get the 101%, I'm pretty sure.
If he punted from like the opponent's 20-yard line or something, but I don't think he'd have a job.
It's weird to say a week 1 game was a loser leaves town match, but I do feel like whoever won that game was going to be like, oh my God, they're going to be the 7th seed, and whoever lost was just going to go into an abyss. But the Chargers, Herbert didn't even really play that well. But when he needed to make a couple throws, Ladd McConkey made a couple plays for them. I always feel like
the best rookie.
Yeah, there's always receivers that can, make a couple plays at least. So I had them number 3. I'm just starting to realize you might have lost bets today.
No, I did okay. I didn't do bad. I mean, that Titans thing is, I should be happy, right? My Cowboys won.
The Titans thing killed you.
Was signed. Yeah, it just killed me. It was just insulting but it was good to get mad at the TV again. It had been a while. Weren't you yelling? It was good to scream at the
I was really mad during the Lions game. I didn't understand why the Rams were coming back. It's like, you guys should be the 1 seed and prohibitive favorite in the NFC. What are you guys doing, Lions?
Right.
The only other nobody believes in us, Tampa and New Orleans are both. Tampa, I thought, had a little of the energy. They were only getting 3.5 points at home, or giving against Washington with a rookie QB and the worst defense, I think, probably in the league. And Baker really poured it on. At the same time, Deshaun is imploding in Cleveland, which was kind of a funny dichotomy. But Tampa, everybody was looking for. We all see the same stuff where it's like, 6 playoff teams from the year before don't make it. So you got to knock out 3 in each conference, and you just go through the NFC. It's like, well, Tampa, I'm knocking them out. I'll put in Atlanta, and everyone just knocked Tampa out. Their over/under was 7.5.
Yeah,
we weren't excited about them when we talked about them, but their offense looked good, and Godwin looked really good in the game today.
It's funny because a lot of times when we did the over/under win totals, you shouldn't look at the playoffs so much because it doesn't factor in, but we totally disregarded Tampa. I know that wasn't a 500 team, but they made it to the playoffs. They handed the Eagles' head to them. Baker was an exciting player. And this Mike Evans, I know we don't want to put him in our top 3 receivers right now, but he's playing like it's a contract year every single year. Coming up with 50-50 balls where he's like getting elbowed in the face mask. Like it's craziness.
They're fun to watch. So we had that. Yeah. My number 1 favorite future was that NFC South will have under 30 wins.
Yeah.
And they got 2 today. But from what we've seen, if Carolina wins 3 games, it's going to be a miracle. I don't feel like that's an overreaction. Like, they're terrible.
Can I tell you what I realized was the problem with that under 30 wins?
What?
They all play each other. And unless you're going to root for a tie every time Tampa plays New Orleans and Carolina plays.
So they play 6 games total against each other. So that's just 3 wins, right? That how it goes?
2, 4, 6, 8.
Yeah, we're doing math.
I can't do math live.
Doing math live on YouTube. Yeah. So you want to do mulligans? What's your mulligan?
Well, all right, let's do 1 player and 1 team.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins comeback player of the year. It has to go by
You're tossing it aside? Okay. Is that your player?
Yeah, that's my player. You want to do your player? Or should I do my team?
I'm not willing to give up on Trevor Lawrence yet. That was a weird game. But I didn't like and there was pass interference yards he didn't get.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put him. The Etienne on Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Bigsby looked really good in that game. Etienne was going for like $40. He's on 2 of my teams. He was being treated like an RB7, RB8, RB9. He continues to turn the ball over and do dumb shit.
Fumble through the end zone. Yeah.
And Bigsby behind him looked really good. And that one, I think that would be my regret. I wish I didn't have so much Travis stock. Yeah, in 2 of my 3 leagues. That would be mine. What do you have for a team?
My team, I mean, I could pick the Browns or the Raiders. They were.
You should pick the Browns today. I would advise you to pick the Browns.
No, they're going to have a different quarterback.
Take the Browns.
A guy's going to come in with a mask. It's going to be like old time wrestling. I'll tell you what. I'm going to say the Lions only because I have them to do so great. I have them as the 1 seed. I have them as the longest undefeated team. I have them as the most wins. I have Ben Johnson as assistant of the year. I'd like to cut back on a little of that if anybody wants to buy it.
You'd like to offload some Lions action.
A little bit. I still have them for the Super Bowl, but I may have gotten overly excited about them.
I wish I had picked Tampa and not Atlanta to win the division.
Really?
Atlanta checks so many boxes of don't fall for this. It's a lot of shiny new toys and a lot of new people. And meanwhile, their 1st round pick, they took somebody who doesn't start. It's the 8th pick in the draft, which, they could have even Jared Verse or Murphy on Seattle. They could have taken any of those guys. Just had a really good defensive guy who could have had a presence today. Their 3rd round pick got hurt, was out for the year. New coach, like it seemed too easy. A GM who seems like he might be kind of a dope, the way he tried to explain the Cousins Penix thing, and then signing Simmons and Judon, where it's like, we have these guys, they're named guys, but maybe they're like a year. And then everybody was on them. Like the odds moved big. And there was just a lot of red flags. And I was like, I just didn't want to take anyone else in the division. But if I had to mulligan it, I would take Tampa.
That's fair. Well, what's the odds? You still get plus odds for that, right? Forget the mulligan. Just take the Tampa
Well,
Bay.
no, but I never bet on Atlanta. I picked it, but
just as a pick.
I'm not. The only bets I had on that division were shorts. A
You're
couple more
smarter than me.
games.
Yeah.
Bills-Cardinals played out exactly like we were all thinking, where the Cardinals offense was going to put up some points. We thought there might be some scenario where Kyler had the ball near the end, trying to either get a cover or be in there. They took a big lead, and then the Bills basically just took over. Do you know how many 10-plus plays Arizona gave up today against Buffalo? 10-plus plays that got at least 10 yards.
6?
14.
Wow.
That's bad.
Wow. Was I not watching that game? That's crazy.
Arizona and Washington, I thought, had two awful defenses.
Yeah.
But Arizona has a lot of talent on offense and moved the ball and kind of stuck around in that game. And I gotta say, like, I thought that was pass interference at the end.
Yeah.
I just thought that they call that all day, every day when we watch football. And for some reason, the guy wasn't looking. He hit, swung his arm in the receiver's chest, and wasn't a call. But I thought Arizona could have stole the game. Russo was awesome for Buffalo. People were wondering like who's going to be, their front seven maniac, and it turned out it was him. But I didn't love what I saw from the Bills. What'd you think?
No, it's different, right? We're used to like Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. I think he hit 9 receivers or 9 pass catchers for 10 yards or more, which is another weird 10-yard stat. So, and that Keon Coleman, I guess that was one of the better rookie standouts. Went for 51 yards. So they're spreading it out. They ran on the ground. They were okay, 130 yards, but it might be a case where Arizona just has a bad defense and it took Buffalo a minute to get started. But yeah, for sure, they could have thrown that. We've seen that a million times flagged.
The worst day, and I missed a couple games because I didn't watch that Giants-Minnesota and I watched the Carolina game, but Washington and Arizona, I thought were the two worst defenses I saw today. Washington's defense is awful. And that was ultimately why I really wanted to pick them to make the playoffs, and I just couldn't get there with them. A couple more games. Seahawks-Broncos. Seahawks come back and win. Seattle's offensive line looks really iffy. I have a lot of Seattle stuff. I have like them for the playoffs. I have them for the over. I just thought they might be a sneaky, maybe even could steal the division if the Niner season kind of goes sideways. But from what we saw today, like Bo Nix was terrible. Rookie QB on the road, like you can't be too surprised. But I did not like how the offensive line on Seattle looked. Geno was like doing a lot of backpedaling, running for his life. They finally got the run game going in the second half, but I think that's something to watch.
You don't think a team should have more than one safety? You think 2 is too many for an offensive line? At one point, I had a lot on Seattle. You asked me if I lost money. This was my make-up money after the Titans. And of course, you should always do this, people. If you're down in the early games, load up on the late games on a big favorite. It never fails. But anyway, Seattle money line was my pick. And I still was rooting for that third safety. I was like, wow, that would be so cool to see 3 safeties and a half. And it almost happened. They punted
it almost happened. Yeah. I was pretty disciplined with the bets. I did a Seattle-Detroit parlay to
nice.
Later, just because I was bored. It just seemed like there was a lot of time between the early games and the late games. And I was trying to think of a phenomenon like that because I ended up doing this kind of dopey, like Browns, Washington, Detroit, but adjusted, and it was like 5-1 odds. And I was like, I never would have done this 8 hours ago, but it's 4:05 and there's still football, and I'm kind of excited for this.
You have to let it fly. Yeah, it's
the equivalent would be like when you're in the airport and your plane gets delayed for an hour and you're like, I'm not even hungry, but let's go to the store and see what they have. And then all of a sudden you're eating like jalapeno chips or something. And you're like, I don't even want these. Why am I eating these? That's that.
Or if it's the Vegas airport and you're like, oh, I know these slot machines haven't paid off since 1977.
Right. I know these are completely
$40 because I need a seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if Bo Nix, I know he wasn't good, but if this was like a week 6 game, they might have won. I don't know that it would have been close.
Yeah, that's it. We didn't. The Packers-Eagles is the only that was Friday night, but did anything from that game that you got excited about? Well, can we just say about the
field? I mean, fix the freaking field. What, are we trusting someone over there to do the field, or do we have our own Like the ambassador of Brazil, like, hey, we got this guy Hector. He's great. He's going to take care of the field. And everyone's, as soon as they showed it, it was bad. And the other thing is, don't the players warm up on the field? Like, why is everyone changing cleats all throughout the game? Maybe it's just something I don't understand, but they should have been able to see that they couldn't cut on this in warmups.
I thought it was a disgrace, and I don't think they care. They don't care. The NFL, they could care less.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man,
it's winter.
Everyone was playing on that field, both sides. It was the conditions are the conditions. Like, they don't care. If Love had that knee injury because of the field versus how it actually happened, I think it probably would have been a bigger deal. I don't know whether it's like Twitter and how fast the videos go, but I feel like I'm getting better and better at figuring out if somebody had a torn ACL or not.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you feel like you're getting better at it?
Yeah. I think
I was looking at it. I studied the Twitter. I'm like, you know what? That looks like a meniscus or an MCL. I don't.
Slow motion replay. The pop threw me off a little bit. You don't usually see the pop in the knee. So, but yeah, you're right. I think
because he walked off the way he was on the sidelines. I was like, that doesn't feel ACL-ish to me. It doesn't, and even how they were talking about it after. But I don't know.
What do you think about Fridays in general? I don't know if I can do them. I mean, it's great the first week, but I don't.
I had this on the docket to talk about.
Yeah. Okay.
Would you sign up for? I give you three choices: a weekly Friday game, bi-weekly, or monthly. You have to pick monthly. One.
I think this really tears into relationships and marriages. And when you're doing Thursday, Friday, if you're a college junkie like me, Saturday, and then all day Sunday and Monday night, it just becomes too much. Now there's a law or a rule or something where it said since the 60s, you can't play on Fridays past Labor Day week.
Yeah.
So but Goodell will have that changed, right? What would you say out of
it's those? An actual law?
I don't know what it is. What could it be?
I thought they just had a gentleman's agreement that they would, never go against high school football on Friday nights.
Let's look into this. It was like a TV had something to do with it too. I don't know. Well, which one would you pick out of those?
I would like monthly. I really like the Friday night game. I had a great time. Our friends Robin and Krista came over. Robin's a big Eagles fan. Game came on at 5. We were watching that and the Tiafo just self-combusting at the same time. Had a little Minnesota Lynx versus the Fever on the third TV. A little tennis WNBA Friday night NFL threesome. But I really liked it. I had a great time. The game ended at like 8:30. It was still like there was some time of the night left. And I thought it was just weird and fun.
I know it is. Sports Broadcasting Act 1961 prohibits the NFL from holding games on Friday after 5 p.m. from the second weekend of September through the second weekend of December in deference to high school football. I don't know.
Wow.
They'll change that.
Was that like in JFK's first term? JFK's like, hey, we got to fix this Friday night football thing. Yeah.
That's what got him in trouble with the Cubans, I think.
Yeah, that's why the mafia. That's why the mafia took JFK out, because he got rid of Friday night football. So for next week, we're going to guess the lines in a second, but for next week, it's the dreaded 10-3 scenario. 10 early games.
You have your work cut out for you with this
3 late games.
Box. Yeah.
And what's funny is the games all kind of suck. So I was looking at possible multi-view: Tampa, Detroit, New Orleans, Dallas, Seattle, New England, and Green Bay, Indy might be our best 4. And Green Bay would be with Green Bay's backup quarterback, who could be Ryan Tannehill or Thompson Robinson, or who knows.
Wait, you said Cleveland, Jacksonville, or no? You're done with Cleveland altogether.
I don't ever want to watch Deshaun again if I don't have to. I mean,
all right.
Today he was only 1 of 4 games. Like, if he's 1 of the 10 games, I don't want to watch Deshaun Watson play football.
Well, that is the one thing the Friday game did, is you looked at that early slate. It's like, oh, yeah, we could have used a better quarterback in here somewhere, 1 or 2. But no, I think you're right. Although, well, we'll get to the lines in a second.
All right, we'll take a break and we'll do guess the lines. All right, coming back here on YouTube. See, this is how we do the podcast. We don't stop. We usually don't have edits. We try to race through it as fast as possible. You usually
take 20 minutes and do cryo or something, and we wait, and then you come back and you're refreshed. But
no cryo. Live YouTube. You can't do the cryo.
Oh, okay. All right.
Week 2. You beat me in week 1. Guess the lines. Yeah. We guess the lines every week. Week 2. Thursday night is actually a pretty good game. Dolphins Bills. And we didn't talk, I guess Dolphins Jags was the one game we didn't really talk about. I didn't think the Dolphins looked good at all in that game. And the game got swung by this crazy Travis Etienne play where they're up 17-7. He's running into the end zone, Ernest Biner style. Somebody pokes the ball out, fumble, goes into the end zone. When you have the team where the guy fumbles into the end zone, it's one of like the top 4 worst football fan on the couch feelings, right? It's like, oh my God. And then
All
you're
that for
7
nothing.
points off. If you had the over in the game, that's screwed up.
Next
play, 80-yard Tyreek touchdown on a play that only he can score.
You know,
on.
we haven't
And we got to talk
the
about the Tyreek thing too. Yeah, we didn't talk about that either.
Yeah, I mean, he was destined to score. I made us bet plus 550 that he scores twice today after that, you know, after they unshackled him there. But he only scored once. But yeah, when are you going to be more motivated than after you're arrested? Even Scotty Scheffler was able to figure it out.
Well, he seemed really pissed off about it after the game. And, you know, somehow this is another NFL tradition where some sort of off the field something becomes a major story. And this is going to be the major story over the next couple of days is what happened. Why did he get arrested? Who knows what? And Miami police. And it just feels like this will be a 48-hour thing. I was surprised that it didn't affect him because that touchdown that he scored was one of those, he's the only player in the history of football who could have scored on this, where it's like, it's an out, but you have to somehow do a 90-degree turn with 2 guys on you, but then keep your speed, full speed, but not go out of bounds. And he's the only one. Is there any other football player you've ever seen who could do that?
And remember to do the handcuff celebration at the end.
Right,
Yeah,
did he do that too?
No, I don't think there is anyone. Nuts. But yeah, they and you broke the news to us before we went live on about 6 minutes before we went live on the Ringer pregame show. I was like, oh, you're screwing around. This is you just trolling JJ, who's a big Dolphins fan. But no, this stuff happens pretty regularly now. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, for the Dolphins, they were about to go down 24-7. They get the fumble. They get the touchdown. The moment he scores, you're like, oh, they're definitely going to win. Then they end up gutting it out, basically. But Jacksonville completely fell apart. I had it written down.
I know you had Jacksonville, and we're used to Miami, but did it seem like there were more plays for Miami that started 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage than ever before?
Yeah.
You got all these speedsters, and he's throwing these swing passes that are like 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, and they'll run 8, but it's only a +3. Like,
I didn't think
the Dolphins offense up.
Did you think Tua was good in that game? Because I did not.
No, I don't like the game plan. I don't know. Maybe it was miserably hot, and you just go with the team ultimately.
Yeah, that's why when it's Florida in September, it's hard to say. Miami had 10 quarterback pressure, so that was one thing where I thought I didn't think their pass rush, maybe especially in the first month without Chubb, would be the same, but they actually did it. Jacksonville second half when they had 10-point lead, punt, red zone fumble, turned it over on downs with just a classic stupid Doug Peterson play. He's good for like 4 of those a year.
Right.
Punt, and that's how it went. They got the ball back 17-17, 2:13 left, and Lawrence got sacked twice. And they had to give the ball back, and that's how Miami ended up winning. So that was a pretty awful loss for Jacksonville. But I also, if I'm Jacksonville, I'm like, we win if ETN doesn't fumble. Like that game's done. So anyway, as we head to guess the lines for Thursday night, it's in Miami, and I have Dolphins -2.5.
You went a little high. I said 1, and it's 1.5. Let me just check. Let me just make sure.
Yeah, you get that one.
1.5. Yep. It's a good line. Right in there.
It's a good line. What a weird week for Miami. They're playing 2 football games, and they're going to have this Tyreek Hill, why was he arrested fiasco.
Yeah.
And that's just all going to happen over the course of 96 hours. and
Just
Mike McDaniel's trying out for Boogie Nights too.
That humidity was not good for whatever he's trying to do with his hair. I have to say that.
They needed to play Sister Christian while he's just zoning out, watching somebody throw firecrackers. Our Sunday marquee game, which we really need because there's only 3 late afternoon games, but we got a Chiefs-Bengals game in Kansas City. And it's not no, there's no must wins in a week 2, but the Bengals getting thrashed by the Chiefs and going down 0-2 for the season. And I mean, that might be unrecoverable for them. So I have, this has to be in the T zone. I have Chiefs by 6.
Yeah, that's what I had. 5.5 is the correct answer. Yeah, we should come up with a name for that, because this is where there's always a 0-1 team that we're like, oh, they have to win this week. There's no way this team's going 0-2. And then they do go 0-2, and then they show that stat. Well, only 12% of the teams who have gone 0-2 have made it to the playoffs, or 4%, whatever it is. So, I mean, I don't think Cincinnati is that team. They're pretty hefty underdog in Kansas City, but
they seemed, now granted, this is where you get into trouble with week 1's with overreactions, but they just don't seem as potent as they used to. And Higgins didn't play, but they didn't have a running back that scared me. Burrow didn't seem like himself. Chase, that Pats just took him out, and they didn't really have a lot of places to go. Like, they had a touchdown to Gesicki in the corner that he ended up not holding on to. Yeah. Gesicki's been bouncing around. Like, he was in the Pats, and that was who they were kind of going to on a key play, and then somebody else fumbled on the next play.
You want to pencil the Bengals in for 34 points offensively, right? And I just don't think we're even close to that team yet.
Well, I remember, so when we did the over-under pod, I had some of the alt unders for them, and I think we talked about them because this is a Raheem thing. Oh no, hold on. It's in another. I have all these different files. How many files do you have for this stuff?
There's a lot. I have
to go to my AFC Master 2024 file.
That's it.
Yeah, that under 8.5 wins for them was plus 250. Under 7.5 wins for them was plus 440.
Yeah.
And it's like, is 7-10 insane for that team after they lost to I wouldn't say 7-10 is insane.
No, we should have banged that out. Yeah.
Wish we'd talked about
especially after the slow starts every year.
The watchables. Somehow in a 16-game slate, I only have one watchable, and it's Rams-Cardinals in Arizona. This is a super fun game. 2 0-1 teams, by the way. Division matchup. These teams have had, I want to say they've had entertaining games in the past. I feel like I've watched a couple of them, and I don't have it on hand, but I feel like these games are usually kind of fun.
Had a wild card playoff a few years ago on a Monday, I think. Yeah.
I have the Rams favored, and I didn't know whether to go 1.5 or 2.5, and I settled on 2.5.
Oh, nice. That's what I had. It's 1.5. We tie.
So it's 1.5. Okay.
That's fair. You love Arizona on a teaser. Love them.
They're just a good teaser team, because if you take them past the touchdown, even if they're down double digits, you still feel like they can get the cheapie to come back.
You know what? I don't want to sound arrogant here, but a lot of times we'd say, I love this. I'm going to bet it right after we do the podcast, before the podcast post, so that the line doesn't move. We don't have that luxury anymore unless we do it right now.
Like literally right now? Okay. Oh yeah, live. On YouTube, right. People are like, what? People are moving the lines on us.
Yeah.
Fairly watchables. I have 6 games. The first one is Ravens Raiders. It's in Baltimore. And I guessed the lines before I watched the week 1 games. I did a preliminary guess it. No, and then I changed to my picks after. This was one of the ones I moved after watching the Raiders. I think this has to be over 7. I have Ravens by 7.5 over the Raiders.
Yeah, you get this. I don't know why I went light. I don't know why I love this Raiders team. I said 6.5. It's 8.5. Yeah. So you were a point off.
This is going to be tough sledding for the Raiders.
So this is the no way they go 0-2 team, right?
Who? The Ravens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and the Raiders, they could lose this game, go 0-2, but their next 2 are Carolina home, Cleveland home. Then they have at Denver.
Right.
So the schedule's in their favor. It gets harder.
I knew there was a reason I liked them.
Yeah, you did love their schedule. Okay. I like that spot for the Ravens, by the way. Man, it's going to be hard not to tease them. Do we tease that now before it gets to 9?
It just got to 9. We got a lot of viewers.
It's 9.5.
It's 11.5 now.
All right, next one. Jaguars-Browns in Jacksonville. There's a chance it's going to be super hot in this game. I have the Jaguars by 3.5.
That's what I had. I'm going to announce what I was off before.
What is it? Is it way? Are we way off? Oh, it's 3.
No, it's 3.
What'd you think of the Browns defense today?
It reminded me at times of what they did against Houston. Like they went most of the year without giving up big plays, and then they couldn't help themselves against Dallas. Yeah. And CD wasn't even extraordinary either. So, but Garrett's always a menace. Garrett went up against our rookie and beat him up pretty good. But I was happy. Yeah.
Jets Titans is the third fairly watchable. I have this because the Titans, I don't know. This feels upsetish to me, especially if the Jets win in San Francisco on a Monday night. And it's like, now they're going to go to Tennessee and easily beat 10. And then all of a sudden they're down 17-0. It's in Tennessee. I have the Jets favored by 3 points.
I was a half point off. I said 5. It's 4.5.
Oh, man. That is not a lot of respect for the Titans.
I mean, that Levis, that mayonnaise coffee drinking, freaking backward peddling. I'm just sick to my stomach. I'm so mad.
Do we have to do the rankings of players you hate their guts in the 2024 season? Levis is number 1 for you?
I'll never claim that someone's trying to throw a game, but he was just like, it was like kill the man with the ball. And he's just like, get away from me, take this. And then he like throws a fit on the field. He's like, watch that too. Go back and watch that. That was sickening. They should not have won, let alone covered that game. We're back.
I should have put Lions-Bucks in the watchables. I apologize to the Bucks. I'm going to move that up. That's a mistake. That's a bad job by me. Lions-Bucks. So we have 2 watchables this week. It's in Detroit. Tampa, the way they move the ball, I should have put that in that category. I have the Lions favored by 6.
Yeah, I was way off here. I said 3.5. It's 6.5. I thought a little more respect. I don't know. What were they favored over the Rams?
Did they play
4
in round 1 or am I crazy?
They played in round
2,
right?
Didn't they play in the playoffs last year and the Bucks kind of hung around?
Round 2, right?
That? Yeah,
Tampa
round
beat
2.
Philly. Round 2, Tampa. Yeah, they were in that game. Yeah.
Yep. Mine feels a little high. Okay, next one for fairly watchables. Colts at Green Bay. And God only knows what this line's going to be. We didn't talk about Colts-Texans, so let's do this right now before we do the Colts-Packers guess, because I forgot to talk about
that. Was fun.
Texans. That game was really fun. The Texans ran 76 plays, and the Colts ran 43. But Richardson had 3 50-yard plus passes that were completed, including
that one. Was that
one of the craziest passes ever?
It's insane.
He was falling backwards and just chucked it Roberto Clemente, Bo Jackson style, like Dave Parker, like just a 300-foot bomb. And he hit Pierce, and he was super exciting. He was all over the place, but his highs are really high, and his lows, he was doing this. But
I feel you'll get that with the Colts. I'm trying to think like who is the fun team? Maybe they're the new Chargers. Or maybe the Chargers will always be the Chargers, but I like the scoring potential for them.
So the Texans ended up not covering that, right?
Right.
They were ended up being 2.5.
I think we said that was our rat game, right?
Yeah.
And our overreaction game, but I don't know. Maybe we didn't overreact to that. I feel like Richardson was not great, but I
thought it was a
really
stay away.
Throws.
Yeah. House had it as his wise guy lock. Houston had 26 first downs. They had 213 yards rushing. Mixon had 34 for 159.
I mean, 34 is by far, I think, his biggest output for carries. Yeah.
So you look at the box score, you're like, how is this close? And it was close because Richardson made 3 insane throws and kept them hanging around. But Kyle mentioned this actually when we were watching it. It was a physical playoff-y kind of game. I thought that was like the most playoff-ish of all the early games for how hard those guys were going and hitting each other and yelling at each other.
Yeah, definitely. You expected one of them to roll over by the fourth quarter.
Yeah. No, it was the Colts are a little better than I thought. So
yep.
I have I actually have the Colts favored in Green Bay because I don't know who Green Bay's quarterback is going to be. I have Colts by 1.5.
All right, you're going to steal this from me. I had 1, and it's 3. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be Malik Willis, but my God, even 3 is low if it's Malik Willis.
Tom Brady? I guess if he came back, he'd want the job for the whole year, not for 4 weeks.
I decided
he'd come back for 4 weeks and then go back and do announcing. Yeah.
That's right.
Last one, Steelers-Broncos. House tried to get the name Backdoor Bo for Bo Nix going, and it didn't take. I don't want to call another human being Backdoor Bo. But he was pretty rocky. I talked to our friend Gus Ramsey, diehard Broncos fan, about it after, and he's like, I'm not going to overreact. Talk to me in November. But he had one throw, and when Kyle and I rewound it, he threw a pick. He's starting in triple coverage, and the ball was in the air, and it hadn't gone for the interception yet. And you could hear the announcer go, "Oh no!" But the ball was still in the air and hadn't been caught by anyone yet. Like that's how bad the throw is. So he had a couple of no plays.
I watched him a lot when he was at Oregon because my kid goes there and everything. And I don't know why. I feel like whatever. They were all bad. But I did see 5 throws I thought were good. And maybe that was just the toughest place to play. He also has a bad history in Washington, losing to that team last year. So
I can't say their skill position guys were knocking my socks off.
That's the other thing.
That was the other thing. That offense might even be worse than the Pats offense. At least we had Ramondre able to.
I like it. I like where you're talking there.
No, I'm
keep you around. What do you think this line? Wait, what do we have this?
I have the Steelers favored in Denver by 1.5.
Do I get this? Yeah, I said 3 and it's 2.5.
I'll tell you this. Going from Seattle on the road to home against Pittsburgh is not the way to start the season if you're a rookie QB. This Steelers defense is going to go nuts. I love the Steelers in this game. I might bet this right now. I might bet this as we're talking.
Went up to 6.
Poop fecta, 5 games. We have a 5-game poop fecta. Week 2. Although I guess Seahawks-Patriots, does that qualify as a poop fecta or fairly watchable? What would you?
I like a lot of these games still.
All right, I'll put the Pats in fairly watchables.
By the way, do we have to? Can we? We usually take a team out of the playoff running. Can we knock out 2?
Oh, I have a spot for that.
Oh, you do? All right.
All right. So Seahawks at the Pats. I think the Seahawks are favored. But I can't believe I'm saying this, but it might be a winnable game for the Pats with that Seattle offensive line. As Mike Lombardi always says, bad offensive lines don't travel. Right. And they'll be traveling to New England. I have Seahawks by 2.5, though.
Who gets this? I get it. I said 4. It's 3.5.
Oh, my God. Are you going to beat me again?
Let's see.
Why do you do this to yourself?
4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I am up 7-6. Still have a few more.
I think this line settles at 3 or 2.5. What do you think?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Kenneth Walker has a Red Cross by his name. I mean, he was outstanding today.
Oh, God. Really? He's already Red Crossing it?
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit.
Poop fecta, 49ers at the Vikings. So you don't think the Vikings are poop fecta just because they beat up on the Giants?
No, I think you're probably right. I think this is when they come down back to earth. But it is a short week, right? For San Francisco.
It's in Minnesota. I have 49ers by 4.
I had 4 also. It's 5.5.
You
want to tease that?
Chang came over to watch some football today, and he was saying how he has some mole with football stuff. Oh. And the mole was telling him how Darnold was going to have a big year in Minnesota, and there's a lot of stats that back up him being good. This is Chang. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
A mole told him a player was going to be good.
A mole at Amazon told him Darnold was going to be good for the Vikings and to watch out for Darnold. Yeah.
I need names. Tell him I need names. We need a source.
So 49ers 5.5. Next one.
Darnold was a few years ago. Darnold led the league in rushing touchdowns after 3 weeks. He does this sometimes.
He had that run with the Panthers a couple years ago, and it seemed like they might actually make the playoffs fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Panthers, they're home for the Chargers.
I was up by 2.5 points here. I'll just warn you.
Really?
Yeah.
I have the Chargers by 3.5.
Oh, wow. You went the other way. You win. I said 7. It's 4.5.
Oh, okay.
Why?
Vegas
Wait a minute. Hold on. Teams are just lighting this junk squad up by 40.
Because the Chargers like barely got to 22 points today. And I don't know. Like they're laying more than 5 points when they can't really score points. I can see why that line's like that.
Yeah, but you're about to whatever spot you have us in, declare Carolina not playoff worthy. And once they hear that, they're just going to give up on the year.
I am willing to cross off Carolina right now.
There you go. All right.
That's do we do a second, right? I would also cross off the Giants right now.
The Giants. Yeah, those were my 2.
Have we ever crossed off 2 teams in week 1?
I don't think so. But how did either make a comeback?
I wonder. I'm going to check on FanDuel really quickly. Because they must have the playoff odds, right?
They don't really have it. No, they
don't have. Yeah, they do have the playoff odds.
Oh, they do?
Oh, just Jets and
no, just for the 2 teams. Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, here's why it's bad enough the Giants looked as hideous as they did, but we're pretty confident the Cowboys and Eagles are going to be good, right?
Yeah, so that's 4 losses.
That's 4 losses, right? And
I'm not. By the way, I'm not totally confident on their team.
Really? What do you need to see?
I thought Deshaun was that bad. I don't even know what to make of that game. I thought Deshaun was so bad there was no way to even tell that much about either team.
Can I say this, though? This goes underreported. And maybe I shit on running backs too much, but I know that's your problem with my team and a lot of other people.
One of many problems.
Would you rather have a 1,200-yard rusher and an average kicker, or a 750-yard leading rusher and the best kicker in the freaking world that anyone's ever seen?
He lined up for 71, and it seemed like they might actually let him try it.
Yeah. And when are fans disappointed when they don't let your kicker try a 71-yard field goal? Because that's where I was. It's like, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, let's see if he can do it. Right.
Yeah. I think that guy's worth points when we're looking at lines and stuff like that. Even more so,
like what the way Tucker was. I think that's a good point. I think Dicker is that good too in the Chargers. I have Dicker in all 3 fantasy leagues, and I think he's. How many field goals did he have today? Like 4? Did he have 5?
Yeah,
4 or 5? 4, because he had.
We could look. Yeah,
because he had 12 points in our fantasy league. But I could see him having like 40 plus field goals this year.
All right, but he's not blasting 65.
No, he's not.
It's just
like
a
your
monster.
Guy. No, that's a good point. Speaking of your team, you're home for the Saints.
Wait, did we? Okay, right. We didn't do Giants-Washington?
Did we?
Oh, we're not supposed to.
Chargers-Panthers, right? Chargers 4.5. Next one's Cowboys home for the Saints. I threw this right.
This was unwatchable. What do you consider this? Not watchable?
I put this in the poop fecta.
Oh, really? All right.
I don't want to watch the Saints.
Derek Carr had 200 yards passing today. You understand?
They didn't make me think any differently of whatever they did against the Panthers. I don't care. Fine, I'll move it to fairly watchables. Just
so this is your no way they're going to be 2-0.
So we only have 3 poop fecta games then if we're moving that. That's fine. I have the Cowboys by
5.5. You lose on this. I said 6. It's 6.5.
Oh, that's too high.
No,
that's stupid. So you're going to beat me this week. Oh, I got 3 games left.
6, 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, I'm only up 1. Yeah, there's 3 left. I'm up by 0.5 point, 2.5 points. I'm sorry, 0.5 point, 3 points, and 1.5. You could do this.
Washington at home against the New York Football Giants. So you have probably the worst defense in either conference against maybe the worst offense in either conference. I don't know what to make of this game. I only know that it needs to be in the Vegas zone, and I have Washington by 5.
Wow. I had 3, and it's 2.5.
Really?
I don't get it either because
so you're going to beat me. God damn
when Minnesota gave points on the road, I was like, what? That's nuts. They can't do that. And then they made it worthwhile this should be probably higher.
Washington moved the ball in that game. Their field goal kicker missed a couple kicks, Cade York.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think their offense was that bad. They just can't
They
play
tried to get
defense. But
Daniels
against the
killed a
Giants,
couple times,
yeah,
but I thought he got a little bit better as the game went
I
on.
did too. I will say he seemed pretty skinny out there. And I know
Yeah.
that he was skinny coming in and
Right.
but when you actually see him against all those giant NFL players,
Mm-hmm.
he's strikingly skinny.
They're bigger in the pros for sure.
He stood out. Like skinny in a way, like when he was scrambling and there were people coming at him, I had real fear for him. I was like, please don't get hurt, Jaden Daniels. Been enjoying him. Sunday night, Texans home for the Bears. And I have the Texans by 4.
No, you get this. I had 3.5. It's 6.5. 6.5 is
Jesus. High. Well, that's Vegas saying they didn't like the Bears offense.
You could tie me here, and I'm off by 1.5. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10, 9. Good guys. 1 left. I'm off by 1.5.
Okay. Well, I have it. The Monday night game is Philadelphia home for the Falcons of Atlanta. And I have the Philadelphia Eagles by 5.5.
All right. You got it exactly. So I can't be too upset. I said 7. I'm not buying this Atlanta team at all, but it is 5.5.
Nice spot for the Eagles.
Yeah. What,
were you
10
scared
days off?
as a
11
Cowboys
10
fan?
days?
Were you scared watching them with all the weapons?
I didn't like the Barkley thing at all. I thought their defense wasn't that great, but also it was so hard to tell on that field. Yeah. So that was my ultimate takeaway. Shame on the NFL.
Kyle, do we have to do anything for Parent Corner, or can we just do it? All right, we're just gonna do Parent Corner. Sal, what's your Parent Corner?
Take it away. All right, so I don't even know. This is so inside baseball, but I promise it's going to be interesting to people. So, yeah, how would you describe Don Barris to people?
Don Barris, who warmed up the crowd for Jimmy Kimmel Live forever,
still does. Yeah.
Very nice guy. I would describe him as a true one-of-a-kind character.
Right. And
super happy, and maybe every once in a while gets bent out of shape about something.
Crazy person. He's a crazy person too. I was trying to be nice. Just said that, but also no, it was a delight, but also much like a lot of people in our lives, you know. Yeah. Starred in the movie Windy City Heat, the cult classic. So Don hosts a show on Twitch called The Pretty Girl Show. And basically, Don, another way to describe him is like the conductor of the Demented Orchestra, right? At the Comedy Store, he has a show called The Ding Dong Show, and he brings people from all walks of life who would never be paid to perform in any capacity. Right. And they all get on stage and whatever, and it's like at midnight. So this show he has on Twitch is an offshoot of that. And somehow my son, Jack, who I talked about in the Grimace costume last week, has become a part of this show. And so, but now that school started, it's Friday night and it's like 9 o'clock or something. And Jack went to the Redondo Costa football game. Now there's like 2,000 kids there. This is our big rival. I think Leinart's son is the quarterback for Redondo. The place is packed. Jack calls us at halftime, scores 13-7, by the way, calls us at halftime and asks if we could pick him up because he has to get home to appear on what's called the Pretty Girl Show, where Don and Jack are on and someone else. And then there's a couple of like pretty girls who decide who they would kiss in life. And Melissa hates this, that Jack is on this show, but Jack is only on to give picks for football on Sunday. And so Melissa is out of her mind, and he did it. We had to pick him up because he threw a fit to go on the Pretty Girl Show. And he's just on for like 20 minutes. He gives picks and gets off, but it's not really a place for him. And I kind of laugh at it because Don's our friend, but my wife is really, it's getting bad. So I don't know and I asked him, I was like, hey, did anyone else leave the 13-7 game? Coasting Redondo to appear on the Pretty Girl Show? No, it turns out he was the only
Do we
one.
need the Pretty Girl Show on the Ringer, or is it a long-term contract with Twitch?
I don't know, man. You can negotiate with them, but they play hardball there. Yeah.
So it's like a dating show.
But not
also
even
Jack comes on and gives football picks.
They'll show a picture of Bill Simmons. They'll be like, "Oh, would you kiss this guy?" And then like this 45-year-old woman will be like, "No, yes, yeah, no," like, you know, and they'll show like, you know, Snoop Dogg or someone, you know, and it's usually like famous people. But anyway, he doesn't jump on for that part. But when they give picks at the end, which makes no sense. Yes, yeah, he shouldn't jump on at all. Yeah, I'm wrong about this. I know. I have to ban him from the Pretty Girl Show. I'm sorry, Don. I love you.
I think it's a good idea to ban him.
How old do you think your kid should be before they appear?
Probably over 18. Yeah, he's not 18 yet, right?
No, not yet. No.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Speaking of sons aging into different parts of their life, so my son got his driver's license 3 weeks ago, and he didn't have it. You know, he as I don't remember if we talked on Parent Corner. Might have failed the test a couple times.
Yeah.
And then finally passed it. The test in California is super hard for some reason. I have no idea why. And I have no idea why.
You have to wear a mask over your eyes to take it. That's why it's hard.
It's just, it is so complicated. And then you pass the test, and then you drive around LA, and it's like Mad Max. And you're like, you're just seeing all these cars. Like, how did that person pass the test? That person's weaving between 3 lanes. So anyway, he got the car. When our daughter got the car, it was always like, I'm going here. You know, she would be texting us at stoplights. I'm almost there. Hey guys, I got to, you know, always checking in so we knew where she was and we could check on Life 360. Ben got the license and we basically haven't seen him again. He's now turned into, he's basically renting a room in our house. He's like, hey, what are you doing with that extra bedroom? Oh, it's just this guy that comes in. He works nights. We don't see him a lot. He passes in. He's just gone. He leaves in the morning. The first day he went to school, we zoomed out of the driveway, and my wife and I looked at each other like, oh my God, how did the kid from, you know, 15 years of Parent Corners just drove out of our driveway. Right. And then he stays after. He's like, I'm going to study at this guy's friend. I'm going over there. We decided to go to the movies. He just doesn't want to be here for any reason. And I know you went through this with Archie, so you've already been through this, but I don't think people realize just what a massive confidence hit it is when your kids get older and they can drive. Because your kids think you're the coolest person on the earth until they're, what, 11? Right?
Yeah, that's
and then
fair.
from 11 to 16, you're just kind of hanging on. And then by 17, and Ben's not even 17 yet, they don't want to be with you at all for any reason. And the kids that want to be with their kids, I'm almost suspicious of them. I'm like, why do your kids like, why does he like his parents this much? Why doesn't he get some friends and leave the house like my son who's never fucking home? My point is, I thought when he went to college, we'd be empty nesters, but I think it's already happened. I think we're empty nesters already. You still have that third kid.
Yeah. The car is huge. The car is like the last I don't need you anymore thing. I mean, obviously you're always going to have to fund stuff, right? Until they're
18. I'm basically like a loan shark for him where he's like, I need can you buy me $300. Can you
you're never getting it back. Yeah.
Paid for gas. Oh, I got to get oil. Can I charge oil to the card you gave us? Like, but yeah, he's just gone.
The car is an unbelievable mechanism for independence, and I don't even realize it. And I'm dealing with it with my father now because we're trying to get him off the road, and he's like, "No way, I'm staying on." And so funny, you and I talked about this morning with the Tyreek Hill. I'm like, "Oh, please, someone take my keys. I'd be happy to never drive again."
Right?
It would be great.
Just Uber. It sounds awesome.
Exactly. So yeah, no, it's such a symbol of independence.
Well, Kyle saw it in action this weekend today because Ben was at this peer leader retreat all weekend. So he's gone. He's gone for 2 days. And we're like, hey, can you text us, see how it's going? We don't hear from him for 36 hours. We could just tell from Life 360 where he is. And then he's doing there's no Wi-Fi where I was. I couldn't get a hold of you. It's like, I find it hard to believe there's anywhere in the United States that doesn't have Wi-Fi at this point. So anyway, we don't hear
if you're locating him on 360, then I think there's Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Wi-Fi exists. He just didn't want to talk to us. So then he came home during the early games right?
Mm-hmm.
Comes in, sits down, says hi to Kyle. He's like, I got to go do homework. We get, what, 2 minutes? Kyle, we got no info really at all about the retreat. Didn't give us any tidbits. Goes upstairs, comes back down a half hour later with a knapsack on. He's like, I'm going to study at Victor's, and was gone. And that's been my interaction with him all weekend.
That's it.
Less than it's basically our relationship is like the Panthers offense.
Wow.
It's just 3 and outs. It's like I
That's
see him in
it?
the kitchen, like, hey man, how's it going? It's like, it's going good. It's going good. All right, I'll see you later.
Wait, so he's not making the playoffs?
No, he's probably going 2 and 15.
Like the Panthers?
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, I'm an empty nester now. So thank God my wife and I like hanging out, because I can totally see why people get divorced now.
Yeah. He's
if you don't like each other when that house gets empty, it's fucking brutal.
Yeah, you run out of people. If there's a dog there, you can maybe hold on for a couple of years. And if they add football on Friday nights, you're really doomed.
Football on Friday nights, maybe a puppy.
Yeah.
Maybe I need a third dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just goes fast, man.
I meant to tell you, I was impressed with Ben. What night was it? That was still last week, right? It was Tuesday night. We did our draft, and we're on Zoom, but we're doing an auction. And who pops up right behind you? Ben. And he has like a satchel or something. And he's like, I'm going to go do, who'd you do? He was interested in your team for about like 45 seconds.
That was it. He did another 3 and out drive.
He's like, I'm going to do homework, because he knows he's not going to get pushback if he tells you you're going to do homework. Anything else, you're going to be like, where at? What to what time? You know, I'm going to do homework. It's a great line.
So boys, so this happened with Archie too, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Same thing.
Because you said he came home from college for the summer, and he just slept late, never wanted to spend time with anybody.
Sleeping late, bowling, and that college football game. That was it. I guess we can go back and see him if he's playing college football downstairs.
Well, I thought about it when I was in high school, and the moment I got a car, my parents never saw me again, and I never wanted to be home. And I was always at like Jim Grady's house or Bishop's house or any friend I had. I just didn't want to be home. Gus's house, wherever, playing video games, getting home at 2 a.m.
It's healthy. I get it. But from parents' perspective, it's a bummer.
Well, I think you think when you have kids, this person's going to be in your life, like in this substantial way. But the reality is it's like these little peaks and valleys, and there's these long stretches where they're just kind of gone. Like, you know, my daughter's in college 3,000 miles away, and when she FaceTimes, it's like, oh my God, she's FaceTiming us. This is so exciting. I get to talk to her. Otherwise, like, she could just, you know. Yeah. I guess the lesson is have lots of kids. Have like kids, 5, 6, 7 kids.
They'll need you potentially again when you have grandkids and they have kids, and then you have to watch and stuff like that. That's when you'll get them back. I think a little bit. Until then, they're off on the Pretty Girl Show.
Right. Maybe they meet somebody at the Pretty Girl Show. All right. That's it for Parent Corner. So you have the Against All Odds podcast this week. Cousin Sal's winning weekend on Friday, and then Ringer Sunday pregame show was a huge hit today. It really went great. I loved how it looked. Yeah, I really liked how it looked. It was a real TV show. It was the kind of TV show we'd always talked about. It was right there on YouTube TV. You could find it immediately. We talked about a lot of bets. How did we do on the wisest wagers, though? Did we go over?
I don't think they were so wise. I don't know. I had
the unwise wagers.
Titans.
You lost that. House lost.
Someone had Arizona.
The Colts by a point.
Oh, the Colts.
Raheem
somebody
lost.
had Arizona.
JJ had Arizona
covered. Yeah, I think somebody did. All right. Yeah, we're not in it to win. We were also rattled. Yeah, with the Tyreek thing, and the Dak contract was thrown right at us about a minute and a half before we went live. But yeah, it's good. You came on. You get to pick your box. I came on.
Sundays. Yeah, I had a great time. All right, so excited. You can follow that on YouTube TV. You can watch this podcast right now as you're watching on the Bill Simmons channel on YouTube. We're gonna be doing it every Sunday night. This went pretty well, right? I don't think anything bad happened.
I think so. I don't know. Kyle, anyone want to jump in? What would you cut? What would you have cut?
No, I don't think anything. I think we were pretty careful. It's week 4, week 5 when we get groggy, I think is when I think that's when it's going to get a little dangerous.
Yeah.
But
well, we're going to do it in German, so no one's going to know what we're saying.
The pod was produced by Kyle Creighton and Steve Cerruti. As always, thanks to those guys, and I will see you on this podcast on Tuesday. Thanks, Sal. Good job by you.
Good job by you.